I once went to Huddersfield to watch Brighton play. It was an 8-goal thriller, of which Brighton contributed 1 goal. And at the end of the match, they felt so sorry for us that they sold us the pies and the sausage rolls for £1 each. It was nice but shocking.
You said, we're all right, actually. We'll pay you to keep it.
Thanks for listening to the latest Beyond the Back Four podcast, available on YouTube and all podcast platforms. Subscribe now so you don't miss a single episode.
Welcome to Beyond the Back Four, and it's time to dip into our festive mailbag, which is not some sort of weird euphemism, Kieran, before you start. Joining us is Kieran Maguire. We've got James Brooke from Rousing the Crop, and we are going to answer your questions. And when I say we, I mean them. And when I say you, that does mean you. Okay, before we start, make sure you're subscribed and doing all of those things. Let's go, James, straight away. Questions about Mo Salah. That won't surprise you. So the first one comes from Sarah, who says, Salah says he's been thrown under the bus by the hierarchy. Is this just typical superstar ego, or is the relationship at Anfield genuinely broken?
Thank you for your question, Sarah. I think it's the former, basically. I've been quite consistent on that throughout this whole Salah situation. I don't believe that Salah ever truly believes that his relationship is finished at Liverpool. I think there was quite a lot of posturing, quite a lot of kind of deliberacy in the timing. I think that it has definitely soured in the respect that he expects to be playing every week. He wants to play every week. He's used to playing every week. And obviously he hasn't been prior to leaving for AFCON. And of course, a player like Mohamed Salah, he isn't going to take kindly to that. He's shown that in the past with Jurgen Klopp, that he does not like sitting on the bench. So in that respect, maybe there is a slight relationship breakdown. But I think the way to look at this is, he never had a particularly close relationship with Jurgen Klopp, for example, at Liverpool. So the relationship was more of a working one. And if you look at it from that kind of point of view, from Salah's kind of viewpoint, he expects to be playing, he expects to be scoring goals and winning things with Liverpool. And in that respect, Klopp held up his end of the bargain because he kept playing him. He literally kept playing him every single game. Whatever the form, and it wasn't always amazing, he would continue to pick Salah. So if the only relationship that the two men have is a working one, and I'm not saying they weren't friendly, because they were, but they weren't good friends, they weren't close. So the only relationship they had was a working one. And if he takes that into the relationship with Slot, which I think he probably has, because Slot is a less effusive, less personable person than Jurgen Klopp, I don't think that's controversial to say, then he's going to have another working relationship as well. And he sees that as a contract broken, that I'm not in the team, basically. So if there's no working relationship, then there isn't really a relationship. So I do understand that from that point of view. But no, to answer the question, I do think that Mohamed Salah was posturing a little, was trying to put pressure on the club, on the manager. And I don't believe that. I think there's a way back. I think the coming on against Brighton showed that very clearly. I think it gives everybody time to cool down. He goes to AFCON, comes back, and I think that it'll all be kiss and make up. Everybody will be friends again. Not maybe quite as black and white as that, but I would be surprised if there is a further souring of the relationship.
How do you feel, this is purely as a Liverpool fan, so maybe other fans that you've spoken to, how do you feel like his words and those actions impact his status at Liverpool? And not just in the present day, but in 3 years and in 5 years? Because if we use Steven Gerrard as like the great example of a Liverpool great of our times, there's always that thing that away fans can use, as in not Liverpool fans, can just poke a little bit and go, yeah, but he wanted to leave. He put in transfer requests, and so did Wayne Rooney at Man United. And so it works all over the shop with different players at different clubs. But it does change the story, doesn't it, a little bit? It's the same as Ronaldo at United. There's all the greatness, but there's just that something there that just sours it slightly from the fans' perspective, because they maybe don't feel about it the way you do.
Yeah, I don't think it has to be that way. I think that a lot would, if Salah had actually left, if that was his final game for Liverpool against Brighton, which obviously you don't know what happens, it could still be, then I think there would be a feeling of amazing, but yeah, look how it ended. It didn't need to go this way, but I really don't think that he is going to go. And if that is the case, then I don't think that this will have any kind of bearing on his legacy at Liverpool at all, because he will probably come back and he'll score more goals. And ultimately, I think Gerrard, if you use Gerrard as an example, a lot of rival fans do like to bring that up. But for Liverpool fans, it is kind of a moot kind of thing. It's not, I mean, I read an interview with Steven Gerrard this morning where he said, if Liverpool need me for anything, any job, anytime, any day, I will be there. And that's the kind of legacy Gerrard has at Liverpool. That will never be tarnished. Whatever the reasons for him looking away, whatever happened there, and there's several theories for what went on, which we don't need to go into. But, you know, I like to believe it was just, no, I don't think we need to. I think it was just his love of Liverpool that led to him staying. And for Salah, the reasons are different. The reasons are different because I've never felt as a Liverpool fan that I mean, people have different thoughts on this, but I think if a Real Madrid or a Barcelona had come in for Salah at the peak of his powers, I do think he would have gone, or he would have very, very seriously pushed the club to give him a better contract, this kind of thing. That's the way he kind of works. And that's fair enough. He's not a Scouser. He isn't from Liverpool like Gerrard. He owes the club nothing in many ways. So, but I think as fans, you can kind of feel that. So I think that distance, a little bit of distance has always been there. But that doesn't mean he isn't widely appreciated. And he will, whatever he does from here, go down as probably one of the top 3 players to ever have played for Liverpool. And that is some incredible company to be in.
Yeah, I mean, we had the debate the other day about who's the greatest Premier League player, and Kieran very sensibly suggested Thierry Henry, as people will do. But like you pointed out, Salah has beaten more or less every Henry record, and it could be that in 10 or 15 years, Salah is the name that people naturally put forward in the same way that at the moment you naturally put forward Thierry Henry. Kieran, producer Ned has come up with what I think is an excellent expression, which is peak nuisance value. Is Salah at his peak nuisance value because he's got 18 months left on his contract? So there's long enough that the club have the power, but not quite so long that if he does another public outburst like this, then it makes more sense to get him sold.
Yeah, I think we've seen with the likes of Cristiano Ronaldo at Manchester United, where toys out of pram take place, that the club normally has to act fairly quickly. I think the Liverpool hierarchy will be absolutely delighted in one way, because Mo Salah could have left for nothing on the 1st of July. So they will have protected value for him as a commodity as opposed to him as a human being. And I still think with 18 months of his contract to go, that will start to taper down if we hit the final 12 months of his contract. But it does look as if the Saudi Pro League is looking for a natural successor to Cristiano Ronaldo to be the face of the Saudi Pro League, and Mo Salah from a local cultural point of view, from the fact that he's a fantastic footballer, that he's very articulate in many languages, and he can express himself both on and off the pitch. I think he would be incredibly attractive. So therefore, I still think Liverpool can extract an awful lot of value. I agree with what James has said, that he won't have the same love as Steven Gerrard, but it's a job. You know, if I look at all the previous jobs I had, there's not a lot of love when I turn up there anymore. So why should there be any different from a footballer's point of view?
Okay, yeah, it's an interesting point. Because the Ronaldo comparison is interesting. United obviously terminated his contract, or it was a mutual consent termination, so they abandoned all value just to get him out the door. At the moment, Salah obviously has value, and this is all hypothetical, but is there a situation where it would make sense to Liverpool to do similar?
I don't think so in the current position. I think the Cristiano Ronaldo position was slightly different in the sense that he was in the final 12 months of his contract. He was on a eye-wateringly high salary because he effectively was signed for next to nothing, and therefore all of the money was going to the player. So therefore Manchester United were looking at, how do we save ourselves £400,000 or £500,000 a week for the next 8 months for a football player who A, has fallen out with the hierarchy, and B, there were issues on the pitch as well. Whilst he scored goals, he was a 1+10 player rather than a part of a team of 11. Mo Salah, I don't think it has to be carried the same way that Cristiano Ronaldo does. At the same time, I think it's frustrating from a fan's point of view that he doesn't bust a gut tracking back, but the pluses outweigh the minuses. So no, there's still a lot of value in the Mo Salah contract because of that extra 12 months. At the same time, Liverpool are paying him handsomely, so it's not to sit on the bench.
I think the breaking point is if he does a sit down with Piers Morgan. I think that's the one where you go, okay, Mo, that's enough now. That's the real line in the sand. But we'll see. There's no suggestion of that, although I did see him request one that he put it out there on X, formerly Twitter. So we'll see if Mo does come back to him or not.
Piers Morgan lives a few villages away from me. He's not invited me on yet, but I'm waiting. I'm available. If Mo does turn him down, I cycle past his village quite often.
Once had an argument with Piers Morgan where he thought that Sanchez and I can't remember where it was. So I'll let Ned decide if this is worth broadcasting. Woke up in the morning with a lot of fear. Kieran, the next question is for you. It's from two people, Josh in Newcastle and Naomi in Southampton, are asking about the soul of their clubs. So Josh wants to know when the Premier League stops being the league we grew up with and just becomes a financial vehicle. Now, it's hard to know exactly at what point Josh grew up because I don't know his age. Naomi says, what are the early warning signs a club is in trouble before the points deduction headlines actually hit? So two very different questions. Let's start with that one because that's a very specific question from Naomi in Southampton, whose football club is in trouble. What are the early warning signs a club's in trouble before the points deduction headlines hit? So if you were just supporting your team, what could you look for to be like, hello, we're doing that now?
Well, one of the most common ones is late payment of wages. No matter what the excuse is, and we've sadly had another one this week where Leicester City have said, "Oh yeah, we promised that we were going to pay the December wages on the 19th of December, and therefore, as everybody prepares for Christmas, and we know that December and January are really tough months. So in your head, I can do a little bit of spending earlier in December. I've got my salary coming in. Yes, we'll party for a week, and then the shutters come down from the 1st of December, from the 1st of January. So for Leicester City to do that at 7 hours notice, by all accounts, I think that's a classic sign of owners that have got cash flow issues. So that's one which I'm always on the lookout for. And there are other clubs involved as well where I get to hear the stories because I teach football players and I teach football agents. Boy, do they like to gossip. But I can't name the clubs because I know that producer Ned will currently be going extremely high blood pressure if I did name the clubs involved. But these are the types of things that sometimes get out because disgruntled players and agents, they won't put it out on social media themselves, but they might have a moan to their mate or they might have a moan to their partner who will go, well, I'm not very happy about it. And they'll put it out. And you do pick up on these stories. So that's certainly one. High Court writs. We've got Reading Football Club at present that's got a winding up order from the former chief executive. So all of these types of things, and rightly or wrongly, I monitor a website called Companies House, which has got all of the documentation. I monitor all of the legal claims that go in through the courts, and there's lots of resource out there. If you're a nerd and you've got no personality and no friends like I have, it's a perfect way to spend your time.
That sounds very fun. I like that a lot. So let's now pivot slightly to the first question, which is the one from Josh, who wants to know when the Premier League stopped being the league that he grew up with and just became a financial vehicle. So we're all slightly different ages, so we would all have different interpretations of at what point in the league you become an adult, etc. But ultimately, I suppose, Kieran, this is the question for you, and then James, I'll get your opinion. Was that always the case? It's just as people have got older, you just become more aware of all of that stuff. And actually, as the media has broadened due to, social media and the ability for people outside the game to have a voice, people just like you, Kieran, we just have more access in the public of this kind of knowledge. It's not necessarily the league is different. Would that be fair?
Yeah, for me, it was the decision of clubs in the top division to stop sharing the gate receipts from home matches. So it used to be split 50-50 between the home and the away team. And that did give an advantage to the likes of Manchester United and Liverpool and so on because they had bigger crowds. But it also allowed other clubs to compete. And I'm old enough to remember Derby County winning the equivalent of the Premier League title, and Nottingham Forest and Everton and Blackburn Rovers and so on, and Ipswich Town being a genuine contender for 3 or 4 seasons, because they were behind the bigger clubs, but they weren't that far behind that they couldn't make good signings. So that was the start point, and the second was the creation of the Premier League. And the Premier League's been a fantastic success. Let us not forget that. But for the first 10 to 12 years, it was a duopoly in effect between Manchester United and Arsenal. And because of the way that the money was shared, that sort of reinforced the position. And then sort of the third incident was Roman Abramovich was flying across London in his private plane. He looked below and said, "What's that?" And somebody said, "Chelsea Football Club." He says, "Well, that looks fun. That's a new toy to play with." And then we had the rise of sort of the designer owner for whom losing money became a non-issue. So those are sort of the 3 incidents: the concentration of home ticket money, the creation of the Premier League itself, and the gap that created with the EFL, and thirdly the new ownership base. It used to be, and again, I'm old enough to remember the start, from the start of the 70s and beyond, where you saw that the chairman of a football club, it would be a bloke in a heavy coat, smoking a pipe or a cigar with a trilby hat on, and he ran the local butchers who supplied the local schools, or the local tin pot factory or whatever it was. And I think that was the start when we had sort of the globalization of football, that it's now become what it is today.
Sounds like a very stylish man. James, what's your perspective? As you've grown up, has your view of football changed? Has your connection to it changed? Does it feel much more commercialized?
You know what? Obviously, yes, because you are aware. When you're younger, you're just aware of the football, and that's all it is really. But you're aware of the football. You love the kits. You love the boots. You love the balls, even all of that. But you're not aware of what goes on behind the scenes and everything like that entails. So, yes, in that respect. But I think it's overblown a little bit sometimes. I think it's all relative, really. I think obviously the might of the Premier League in relation to other leagues across Europe has changed. And I think that is probably the main change. Say, I was born in 1993, so I have only ever known the Premier League, and I've seen it through various kind of iterations. And for me, the big change is Abramovich. That for me is the moment where you say something has changed here, and you can look at before Chelsea under Abramovich and after, and obviously the after is longer and more changes have happened since then, and there's the whole city thing as well. But I think that is the point where there's a before and an after. But I think the Premier League always, up until probably, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago, was still lagging behind La Liga, was still lagging behind, well, possibly not the Bundesliga, but definitely La Liga. It always felt as though the best players in the world would always want to play either for Real Madrid or Barcelona, which is probably still the case. But if you look more generally at the leagues, the concentration of top players, superstar players, is much bigger in the Premier League. And that has changed over the last kind of, I would say, 5, 6, 7 years, really. It has felt like a real shift from the Italian clubs. I was reading an article about, it was about Mohamed Salah potentially going to Italy. And it was a question of absolutely no way, that there is no way any Italian club could afford to pay Mohamed Salah what he is earning. And that's just a given these days. You just accept that. Juventus, Inter, AC Milan, they just wouldn't be able to compete. And that has changed massively, because while during the kind of mid-2000s, they may have been slightly behind the Italian clubs, big shift from the 90s, they were always able to compete, and they did still have top players. That has changed. So for me, the landscape of the rest of Europe informs the bigger change in the Premier League.
You wouldn't have the best English player like Paul Gascoigne going to Lazio, Schmaccio today. Whereas then it was whoa, and the direction of travel is the opposite way.
Arguably, the best British player is playing for Napoli.
Even so, I mean, that is interesting though, because it does feel like there is a massive shift, that the best players do want to now come to England. But arguably the two biggest stars in the English national team both play abroad, Harry Kane and Jude Bellingham. So that is an interesting kind of side point. But more generally, I do think there has been a massive shift towards the Premier League being the greatest league on earth, which they used to slogan it even when you really didn't believe that it was. But now it's kind of, you can understand why they do market it as that.
Right. I've got a great question. And when I say I, Patrick in Dublin has got a great final question for us that I think we could go round and round and round for hours, but we've got 8.5 minutes. Here we go. If you could only visit one away ground every season for the atmosphere and the food alone, which are you picking?
For atmosphere, it was a coin toss this between Newcastle and Nottingham Forest, but I've gone for Nottingham Forest. Every time I've been there, I've been incredibly impressed at the level of noise coming from all four stands. You go to some grounds and they've got one stand which makes a lot of noise, and the rest, the side stands, they're a bit too corporate, hospitality, touristy for me. But Forest, since they returned to the Premier League, I've been there 3 or 4 occasions now, and they've been magnificent. And also, win or lose, they stay for 90 minutes, and it's very noticeable at some other grounds that the sharp exit at sort of 75 minutes if you're 2-0 down is very evident. So for me, Nottingham Forest for when it comes to atmosphere, and for food, Middlesbrough, because I can't say no to a Parmo.
Leeds, Elland Road. Similarly to Kieran, I guess it's an old school stadium. It feels very, even though they always seem to be doing parts of Elland Road up, and it never seems to really look any better, or it always kind of looks unfinished from the outside anyway. And the inside of it does need something, but that kind of adds to it. And I think it's important, if you're going as an away fan, that you don't always, the home fans don't always have it their own way. Because if you go in, you're turning up at Anfield, for example, as an away fan, and you're sitting with the Liverpool fans, I presume that's what we're doing, then Liverpool are going to win that most of the time. And it's all pally-pally, and it's kind of everybody's happy. As an away fan, if I'm going, you want a bit of Schadenfreude, and you want to see the anger in the stands. And I think with Leeds, you really get that. If the Leeds aren't playing well, there's nobody who hates Leeds more than Leeds fans. So, and the anger is directed at the pitch. So you get that. You can look around and see and feel that as well. And I think that's all part of being a football stadium as well. And the food, I honestly don't know. I like to take my own. So, I don't have an answer for you on that one, really. Most recent ground I was at is where I am in Huddersfield, and I've got to say that the food there was absolutely shocking. So definitely not Huddersfield.
I'm amazed that no one has mentioned Spurs for food.
Well, yeah, but it's mainly because we're impoverished and we can't afford it as much as anything else. I mean, I've done hospitality at Spurs on a couple of occasions, and that's very nice. I once went to Huddersfield to watch Brighton play, James. It was an 8-goal thriller, of which Brighton contributed 1 goal. And at the end of the match, they felt so sorry for us. And there weren't many of us, but it has to be said by the final whistle that they sold us the pies and the sausage rolls for £1 each. And yes, the food, and it was nice but shocking. You
said we're all right. Actually, we'll pay you to keep it. Yeah,
I've also done Huddersfield away, and what I loved was within the stadium compound, but not attached to the stadium, is like one of those like containers, and they've transformed that, and it says the Huddersfield Megastore, and it is just a shipping container.
Yeah. No, I'm going into Huddersfield later today. That is the Megastore of Huddersfield. Yeah, it's that's about all we've got going here. But no, it's a good little ground. They're a good club, Huddersfield, and I remember when they were in the Premier League. Actually, to be fair, they were always named as the loudest fans, and they were very proud of that at the time because they were brilliant. They obviously had they had a good year that first year, and the fans really did enjoy themselves, and they let everybody know just how pleased they were to be there, and that was nice, I think.
Okay, so I'm going to change the dynamics of this question slightly. So now that was specific to which is your favorite ground to go to away because of atmosphere and food. If you ignore that, just which is your favorite away destination? If you can pick one away game that you just don't miss for the next 10 years, where are you going?
West Ham. It's a terrible view. It's a terrible stadium. It's soulless, but Brighton have never lost there. So we so you put I put results ahead of atmosphere. I would say as an away fan, one I normally try to go to, and the only reason I missed it this year was that I was taking my granddaughters to Lapland to see Father Christmas. I do love a trip to Anfield. Admittedly, I've got the benefit of working there and so on, but what I really love is going in the pubs before the match and chatting to people who know about football. What I would call the true Reds. They are so knowledgeable about football on so many levels that it's always good crack to have a chat there. And same for Everton, to be fair.
Similarly, I think Newcastle is a good one for that, because they generally tend to be hospitable people, and they're generally incredibly knowledgeable about the football as well. And it's just great walking up from the city. It's so kind of tight within the city that it is a nice walk up the hill, and once you get there, you see kind of St James's looming, and I do enjoy that. I think on the flip side of that, it may be the one you want to avoid, just because the away fans are still right up at the top, and that is an incredible walk up, and it is a terrible view. I still don't understand how it was allowed to happen. That the players are so small on the pitch. You do get a nice view out across, but yeah, it's a love and hate thing, I guess, with St James's.
Okay, and not unreasonable. I'd go for Anfield.
Everybody loves Anfield.
I don't love Anfield. I want to make absolutely clear. I don't love Anfield, but that would be my pick, because if you're gonna go, one, I like it when it feels dangerous, and I don't like to admit this too often, but You Never Walk Alone is a really cool thing, and it is a special thing to watch. That's a part of it. Like, obviously, I hate it in theory, but it's really cool. And then it's very quiet for the next 89 minutes. But if you're going to go to an away game, you're not going to miss it. Then go to the one that's dangerous, that if you win, it becomes the greatest day. And also, I love Scousers and I love Liverpool. It's a really nice place. People are great to talk to. So I love going to Anfield. It's a really fun away game. But obviously, prior to the most recent results, they're miserable every single time. So it does come with a caveat that it can just be an awful day.
That's it. That's the balance. That's the kind of gamble you're taking, isn't it? It's either the best or the worst. So I'm happy with that. I think Anfield gets a lot of bad press in some ways because of the famous Anfield atmosphere, TM. But it's I don't know. It's like a lot of big club grounds, isn't it? They've expanded it, and there is that hospitality, that corporate kind of feeling sometimes. But I think people do dismiss that there really is still, like Kieran says, there's that real kind of core fan base who do absolutely love the club, do make a lot of noise, and are rooted in the traditions of the stadium. And I think you do feel that when you go to Anfield.
Yeah, also, I think with the really big stadiums, I think something that people aren't always aware of is actually the acoustics are often dreadful. So like United, Old Trafford has 78,000 people in it every weekend. There can be groups of thousands and thousands of people making loads of noise, but that doesn't mean you can hear them, even if you're not that far away, because the sound travels oddly around the bowl. So you get different songs in different parts, and actually often it's just noise rather than anything. It just becomes background noise, which is obviously not what you're after.
It was put together as a Lego model, Old Trafford, rather than a single piece of architecture, and I think that acts as a negative. If offshore gin gets his way in terms of the new stadium, one would hope that they take that into consideration.
There's a good-looking tent. Should also say the Amex is obviously a very nice stadium, and they do the best vegan pies, which is something I'm looking for when I'm at football.
Oh, I didn't know you were vegan.
I did, yeah.
We better tell me not. Okay.
It's very important to tell people. No, I am, and it's important I tell people to keep up the stereotypes.
Well, the fact that you didn't tell us within the first 5 minutes of meeting you is quite an achievement in itself. I remember when my son turned vegan. He just got a new girlfriend who was vegan, so the two of them announced it to us. I don't even know your name yet.
Maybe that was it. All right, we've sort of lost the plot. So, Kieran, thank you very much. James, thank you very much. Everybody who's been listening, thank you very much. Get in the comments, let us know your favourite stadium, the stadium you hate the most, when you lost hope in the world of football because of the finances, whether Kieran has given you hope or whether he's absolutely crushed it with his stats. And we'll see you on the next time when we are looking beyond the back four.
Thanks for listening to the latest Beyond the Backfull podcast, available on YouTube and all podcast platforms. Subscribe now so you don't miss a single episode.
People like me shouldn't exist.